The FBI is doing everything they can to keep President-elect Joe Biden and his administration safe from outside and inside threats. We head to Washington, D.C. for the latest on the ground. CNN's Karen Caifa now joins us live. Karen, can you tell us a bit more about the background checks the FBI are doing on the troops who are supposed to be keeping the peace on Inauguration Day?
Yeah, absolutely, Paolo. This is something that has become especially crucial in the aftermath of that riot at the U.S. Capitol less than 2 weeks ago, really making sure that those who are on duty to be protecting Americans and protecting these sites are doing what they are supposed to be doing. Now, they say there is always some degree of making sure that these proper background checks have been done when members of the National Guard and other military entities are participating in events like these, but it has especially become important in the wake of that domestic terror attack that occurred at the Capitol that put so many lawmakers and the vice president at risk. So, Paolo, we're at a different level of security here as we approach the inauguration in less than 48 hours in D.C. It is typical that you see a good degree of security around an inauguration, but this time around it is taking on an entirely different tone.
Karen, you're on the ground there in downtown D.C. What is the security like? What's it actually feel like there? And what are residents and visitors being instructed to do over the next few days?
Yeah, sometimes people forget that in addition to being the home of the U.S. Capitol where lawmakers do their work, this is actually a city where people live and do other work and go to school. Obviously, a lot of this has been tamped down because of the pandemic. You're not seeing the traffic that you would see through downtown D.C. anyway because so many people are working from home. But this city, Paolo, is a fortress right now. If you look at the entry points, the major thoroughfares, they are blocked to car traffic and in many cases pedestrian traffic. Every 4 years, this is a time when Washington, D.C. opens its hotels, opens its restaurants to the rest of the country, to the rest of the world to participate in this inauguration, in this transfer of power. And we always knew that this was going to be a little bit different because of COVID-19. But now you've actually got officials telling people to stay away from Washington, D.C. during Inauguration Week. It is difficult to walk the streets of downtown D.C. and not see the flashing lights of a police car, to not see these National Guard troops blocking sidewalks. So certainly a very uneasy feeling for those who are used to coming to some of the iconic tourist sites in Washington, including the National Mall, which typically can have hundreds of thousands of people there on Inauguration Day. It'll be empty. It's fenced off, Paolo.
Now, Karen, we haven't seen or heard much from U.S. President Donald Trump in the last few days since his trip to the U.S.-Mexico border last Tuesday. How does he know, or what do we know about how he plans to spend his next 48 hours?
Well, Paolo, he's been relatively isolated in the last week or so, and some of that is from the encouragement of advisors who are not encouraging any kind of interview, perhaps, before he leaves office or any kind of farewell speech. We may hear some remarks from him. He is expecting a sort of farewell ceremony after he leaves the White House and goes to Joint Base Andrews to make his way out of Washington. It's expected he might deliver remarks there, but there are concerns among remaining advisors about what he might say and if it might inflame the tensions even further. Today, we got a video message from the First Lady Melania Trump in which she encouraged kindness among one another. But it's very interesting, Paolo. We are not going to see a lot of the traditional things we see during a transfer of power on Inauguration Day. For example, we typically see on the steps of the North Portico of the White House, the outgoing president and First Lady greet the incoming president and First Lady. They typically ride to the U.S. Capitol together for the inauguration ceremony. Of course, the Trumps are not attending the inauguration ceremony of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and they're not going to greet them at the White House either. That job of welcoming Joe and Jill Biden on Wednesday, we understand, will go to the White House chief usher.
All right, Karen, thank you for those updates. That was CNN's Karen Caifa reporting from Washington.